Hello and welcome to Thursday. We did it. We finally did it. We watched all of Seinfeld. We got the complete series for Christmas. I got it for Mao, or maybe I got it for us. We had talked about wanting to watch it together, so I got it. And we started in January and just finished it. So it took about 5 months. And I mean, that's all that we've watched. I feel like we don't consume TV at the rate that a lot of people do. A lot of people, it seems like they sit down in the evenings and they watch like episode. And we don't really do that. We watch an episode when we eat food. That's how it works. Yep. So if we're eating dinner, we'll watch an episode. If we're eating lunch, we'll watch an episode. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but there's like 180, 190, something like that, episodes of Seinfeld. There's 9 seasons. And
it's a lot of discs.
There's a lot of discs. But I actually, this has been around for a while, the complete series disc box set, whatever. And I got it for Christmas for Mal, like a month or so before Christmas, for like 30 or $35. And that is more than,
it's worth the price.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I was going to say the value is far beyond, that of $30, $35. Now, whenever we did our last big show that we watched, which was Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, we reviewed things season by season. We didn't do that this time for Seinfeld, and the main reason we didn't was because the episodes weren't telling an overall story. Like, each episode was kind of individual. Yeah. And I thought that it would be kind of hard to talk about that and review it, like in terms of individual episodes, so we didn't do that. So now that we've watched the entire series, we're just going to kind of give a Seinfeld review. So Mal, going into watching Seinfeld, how much had you seen?
I don't know, because like I remember watching it, and there's like maybe 8 episodes I remember.
Oh, so of the 180 episodes, there was only like 8 that you knew?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, wow.
But I mean, I watched it more than 8 episodes.
You just don't remember them.
Yeah.
We watched a good bit of Seinfeld growing up. I remember when it was on the air, and then obviously when it went off the air, it stayed in syndication. I mean, it's yeah. They have not stopped playing Seinfeld. Like on any given day, at any time. Well, not any time. Several times in any given day, you can watch Seinfeld on TV. Like TBS runs it, I think. We don't have cable, but from what I hear, CBS runs it.
We've been at your parents' and your dad's had it on.
Yeah, that's true. But Seinfeld's still running. And so I watched a lot of it when I was growing up. And I'd say that having gone through this, I saw probably about half. I'd seen about half of the episodes, maybe a third to a half of the episodes. And what was so cool is that I remember, watching it and thinking that it was a really great show and I wanted to watch more, which is one of the reasons we had the conversation about getting the box set, or not getting the box set so much as just watching it at some point. I got the box set as a Christmas gift. But we had talked about wanting to watch it, and I'm really glad that I hadn't seen as much as I thought I had seen, because there was so much left to discover. And the big takeaway that I have from the show, and I tried to kind of think about different things as we watched through it, is one, this really is the greatest sitcom ever made. And I have not seen every sitcom ever, but it's a really great show. I don't feel like it's overrated in any sense of the word. It's a really fantastic show. But then also, the episodes aren't really as standalone as you may think. There's actually a lot of overarching things that are going on throughout the entire series, and especially season to season. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't do it much
in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. But I think starting in like season 2 or 3, there's little things that start showing up again. And the first thing I remember noticing was the jacket, the coat that Kramer wears. Mm-hmm. And like, it's one of those things that if you're just watching episode to episode that you don't pick up on, because it's just like a throwaway line here or there about this coat. But if you're watching the entire season, the coat has its own story. Yeah. Like there's objects and things that have their own story.
Like Art Vandalite comes back a few times.
Yeah, there's things that are reoccurring that you can't pick up on unless you've actually seen like all of them in succession. So if you felt like Seinfeld was one of those shows that, you know, it's not like a continuing thing, like it's not, but also there's a lot there that actually is, and that was something that really surprised me. Now they also dedicated a few different seasons to being an overarching theme, overarching story. Season 4 was the first time they did that, where they get their sitcom.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do that. So then every episode, nearly every episode in season 4, they have different things that are tying into that story. And then they do it again in season 7, I think.
6?
There's another later season where they do it again. But it was... I had always thought that Seinfeld was one of those shows that was like, you know, you just watch any random episode, but if you do watch it from the beginning in order, there is added value that you cannot appreciate otherwise. I thought that was worth mentioning just because I had always thought differently. So I'm sure that people are going to want to know 2 questions, definitely coming off of this review. And that is going to be, what is our favorite character? Mm-hmm. Or who is our favorite character, and what was our favorite episode? Do you have a favorite episode that you have seen?
There's so many good ones.
There are.
Yeah.
There are. There's like a scary amount of episodes, because there's so many quotable things from Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. Even when you haven't seen the show, you've probably heard quotes in pop culture from Seinfeld, and it runs the gamut. There's some in every single season. Like every single season is just fantastic, and there's all these amazing things.
At the very end of the series, there's a disc that's a round table of the 4 main cast members and Larry David.
Yeah.
And they just kind of reminisce on things, and they start showing clips.
Mm-hmm.
And like every time they'd show a clip, I'd be like, oh, that was such a good episode. Oh, I forgot about that one. That one was so good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to go back and think of my favorite one.
Yeah, there's... I don't know if I could even say that I have a favorite. Mm-hmm. It's kind of ridiculous how good, like, every single episode was. There was not a single time where we watched an episode of Seinfeld and I was like, yeah, that was actually a really bad episode. That never happened. Mm-hmm. They were all stupendous. The writing for the show is incredible. Like there's the 2 things that make Seinfeld work so well are the writing. Everything is extremely, extremely well written, extremely funny, and the characters, but specifically not just the main 4, but like all the supporting characters are just all stupendous. So as far as like my favorite episode, I don't think I could choose one either, to be honest. That's kind of a loaded question to ask you and then be like, I don't actually have one. One of the ones that I think had me laughing the most was the one where Kramer gets the Novocaine.
Yeah, that one.
Which
really
I don't even know if they air on TV anymore, because it's kind of not risque. What's the word?
Offensive.
It could be seen as offensive. Kramer gets Novocaine, and he's on his way home, and he's kind of out of it. He also slips in the gym or something, I think, too. Someone slips in the gym.
Yeah. Anyway,
he gets Novocaine, and on his way home, he ends up sharing a taxi with the guy who runs like the big event for the mentally challenged in New York City. And because of the Novocaine, Kramer can't talk, and he can't like perform basic functions. So the guy ends up thinking that he's part of the mentally handicapped, and he invites him. Kramer doesn't realize that he's being invited because the guy thinks he's mentally handicapped. So in the meantime, the Novocaine wears off, and then Kramer explains the situation to everyone, and they're like, well, he invited you because he thought you were mentally handicapped. And Kramer felt bad. He's like, oh no. So he and Elaine actually go to this thing to try and explain what's going on, and then in the process, something happens, and Kramer gets punched and goes back to that same state. It's just, there's so many times in that episode and throughout the entire series where you think that something's going to happen one way, and then all of a sudden it happens a completely different way, where there's so many like misunderstandings, you know. They advertise the show as the show about nothing. So there's a lot of the stuff that's day-to-day life and that's very, very relatable. But I mean, at the same time,
There's some wild things.
There's some really wild, like that example that I was talking about in that episode. It's a very, very out there wild example. Okay, as far as character,
like main cast member.
yeah, of the four, who do you like?
I don't know.
Or is it another situation where it's really difficult
hard.
to choose?
Like, Kramer has some really good moments. Like when he has the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, but
Yeah.
like he gets mistaken for a pimp.
That's another one of those misunderstandings in the series.
It's so funny.
And that's a scene that I have seen that I hadn't seen the episode. And it's him walking down the street in this big pimp coat. And I remember thinking before I'd seen that episode, like, what are the events that lead up to this? And then you find out he was friends with the costume person for the Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, and they lent him the coat. And then it was just one bad decision after another, coincidence that led him to be mistaken for a pimp and then arrested. It's just really ridiculous stuff.
George has some great things, just like the way he reacts.
Yeah.
And like deals with situations.
I mean, I'm there with you. I feel like George and Kramer are probably my favorites. Everyone is good though. Like, and it's hard to pick a favorite because I don't want it to seem like anyone else is bad, because they are all amazing, and they all do really, really well together. And it was interesting to see Jerry's evolution as an actor throughout the series, because
he was not an actor.
No, and I mean, even by the end he still wasn't. But like there was definite improvement.
Yes.
But in the first season, it's almost comical. Even the first few seasons, where he's so bad. Like, he is so bad at acting, and it's interesting because there's a lot of scenes, especially in the first season, with him and George, and Jason Alexander is such an incredible actor, like perfect even in season 1, just incredible. And there's a strange contrast of that to Jerry, who is doing just an abhorrent job of acting.
I like having Elaine in it. Like, I know she wasn't in the very first episode, and then it came back and they were like, we need to have a girl character in here.
Yeah. And
personally, as someone who kind of like always got along more with guys than girls, it was just kind of like nice to see that dynamic.
It felt relatable in some way. Yeah, she's fantastic, and she is such a likable character, which is hard to achieve, I think, in a show where every one of the main 4 cast members are just terrible people. But she's extremely likable, and what's interesting is watching. We watched through all of the show. We've watched through all of the bonus material on the DVDs, except the audio commentaries.
Yeah.
But we've watched all the deleted scenes. There's inside looks where they talk about specific episodes. There's bloopers, etc. It was interesting watching the bloopers because it felt like Julia.
Yeah, she cracks up all the time.
She was, most of the time, she's the sole purpose for ruining scenes because she could not keep it together. But it's so contagious. Like, just whenever Mal and I would watch through the bloopers, you can't help but smile and laugh when she starts cracking up. And you can see in the scene, like, the 4 of them will be doing it, and the camera will show everyone, and Julie will always try and, like, hide her face. She'll just kind of, like, hide in her hair because she had so much hair. It was just really fantastic. It's
interesting too. The bloopers we were just watching, where like she keeps messing it up, and then all of a sudden like she has it, but like it's like totally different. Like it clicks and she does it, and someone else messes it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be difficult because some of the situations and especially lines that they say are hilarious, and when you get more and more of those people on there, when you got all 4 of them in the same room, then they all have to keep it together. And it's kind of like a snowball effect. Like, once someone starts cracking up, the rest of them are having, a very difficult time keeping it together. And Michael Richards, the guy that plays Kramer, he took his job very seriously. And there's a lot of scenes, like in the bloopers, where he's mad that people are screwing up because he's trying to really keep it together. It's just interesting because in some of the behind the scenes stuff, the other cast members were talking about him and how serious he was, and it just seems so interesting that he plays the character who's this goofball, but in real life he was very studied, you know, and was very dedicated and adamant about this acting job. So kind of a strange contrast.
Supporting characters?
They're all perfect. They're all perfect. Best supporting character.
I don't know. Peterman's one of my favorites.
There is one who, and I gotta say, they're all so good. They're all 10s, and I'm gonna put one on an 11.
George's father?
George's father.
I knew.
Frank Costanza is so funny. So funny. I can't. He doesn't have to be saying anything. He just be in a scene, and I start losing it. He's so funny, and the situations that they put him in throughout the series are just so funny. And his bickering between him and Estelle is so fantastic.
And she's cast perfectly.
Oh yeah.
Like as a foil to him.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Frank Costanza is probably my favorite supporting cast member. But Jerry's parents are fantastic. They're cast extremely well.
I liked Putty.
Putty is good, and I'm really glad that they brought him back for a lot of the end series, the end of the series, because he was hilarious. Yeah, that's right.
I liked when Kramer called him to get help installing the garbage disposal.
and
he's just sitting there like deadpan in Elaine's living room, and the phone rings. He's doing nothing, just like squinting. And he picks up the phone.
And Kramer says, "Hey, Putty? Yeah. This is Kramer. I know." It's so funny. He's a great character.
What did he say when he pointed at the back of his jacket?
Oh, he's the 8-ball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Signs point to yes.
God, yeah, they did a lot with that character near the end of the series, and it was a good idea to bring him back for more because he was fantastic. But even the characters that had one episode were amazing.
Yeah.
The Soup Nazi episode is one of the notable Seinfeld episodes, and that character makes it. And he's only in that one episode. I mean, besides the finale, but he's only in that one episode. He is fantastic. Babu, oh my god, the scene of like Babu sitting in the corner just staring at Jerry while Jerry's eating, and he's like, Babu, this is really great, and he's just staring at him.
Or the lady with the marble rye.
Oh yeah, give me the old bag. Yeah, it's like I can't think of any people that weren't cast perfectly. Like even the doctor has reoccurring,
he comes back a few times. Yeah,
reoccurring scenes throughout the series, and he's just perfect. Every single casting was done with care because everyone is just so funny. I really do feel like I don't have a favorite of the four, but I gotta say, of the four, I was probably most impressed with Jason's character.
Yeah.
And I've said that in the past, but he was the only one of the four not to win an Emmy. And it was just a crime against humanity. Because he is just, in so many of the scenes, he is the one that is like driving it forward with the comedy. And I really enjoyed his character. And I love all of them, and I really love Kramer as well. Especially for some of the physical bits, because I'm a big fan of physical comedy. But I think George's character was really, really fantastic.
It's actually funny because we were talking to my dad earlier, and he was talking about how they were seeing some friends and they had a new baby, and my dad was like, "It's like Seinfeld. You gotta see the baby."
And then Mao immediately was like, "You gotta see the baby." I mean, it's funnier now because we've seen it all, and all of the stuff that was quotable that you had either seen in episode 4 or not, finally clicks, makes sense, and it's just, God, it's such a good show. There's 9 seasons, and the show ran from, I think, 89 to 98, and the first 7 seasons were produced with Larry David, and he was co-writing it with Jerry and then the team of writers. And after he left, there is a very obvious shift. Excuse me, shift in the series. It was interesting because whenever you're watching the inside looks and everything, they're talking about that, so you know it's coming up. And once we finished season 7, it was one of those things like, you know, Larry David is leaving. I wonder if we'll notice. Mm-hmm. And when we started season 8, it was like I don't even know how to describe it. The episodes got so crazy and outlandish.
Yeah.
Like the episode where Elaine finds friends that are all like Kramer, George, and Jerry, and she's in like Bizarro Land or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, like that is nuts. All of the craziest episodes are probably from the last 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. And like Larry David did a fantastic job. And there's so much memorable material in the first 7. But those last 2 series, or the last 2 seasons, are just fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Also, season 9, they got a ton of money. Like, their budget was...
Oh, yeah.
So they could do things like have an elephant in an episode.
The way they explained it on the behind-the-scenes stuff was, you know, by the time they got to season 9, money was, like, literally no longer an issue. Mm-hmm. They could do whatever they wanted. So they did.
Yeah.
You know, they, the last episode before the finale was the Puerto Rican Day. Mm-hmm. And, like, there's so much to that episode. It would require so much setting up and money in order to make that work. And it was, you know, it's not a problem for them. So it was, I don't know. Do you have a favorite, like, between the Larry David years and the final 2 years? Or is it just kind of all the same?
It's all kind of the same.
I was wondering if I would be a little divided on that, because it's not even that the first 7 are serious, but it feels a little more grounded in reality, whereas the last 2 seasons feel very out there. But I'm not divided on that. And I don't know if that's a thing people are divided on. I don't know if there's internet discussions from 1998 where people are really mad about this. But I don't know. They're both fantastic, and they both feel like Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. It just feels like when Larry David left, they took all of the characters and they turned them up to 11. They all became not caricatures, but almost caricatures of themselves.
Yeah.
And I think it was fine. I think that after you've seen a show for 7 years, that it's kind of fun to wrap it up like that. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really good time. God, what a great show.
Yeah. Shame it's over.
That's my biggest regret, is that it's all over. Now people are going to want to know what we're watching next, and I want to get this out there and say that we're not watching it next, but Mel and I have talked about it, and I think we're going to watch it now that we finish Seinfeld. Curb Your Enthusiasm is a show that was produced by Larry David more or less right after he left Seinfeld, and it's about him. And Larry David's a hilarious dude, and it's... I've seen a few clips of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I think that we would really enjoy it. So at some point, we're going to watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's going to be the next live-action real show that we watch. In the meantime, though, we're going to get back to anime because people have missed our anime reviews. Because we did Dragon Ball for 14 or 15 seasons. So the next thing we're going to watch is either going to be... what was it? What's it called?
Full Metal Alchemist.
No, that's not it.
Brotherhood?
Yeah, is that Full Metal Alchemist?
Yes, there's Brotherhood and not Brotherhood.
Oh, I thought it was like Brotherhood Alchemist. A completely different show. Anyway, we're going to watch, I believe we're going to watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Did I get that right? Which is not as long as Seinfeld or Dragon Ball. So that'll be the next thing we watch, and we're also probably going to be watching Ruby after that. And both of those shows are not super long, and we'll be doing season reviews for those things. And then probably after that we'll do Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I think is only half the length of Seinfeld. Shouldn't take us quite as long to get through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you glad that you got to experience Seinfeld in its entirety?
I am very glad, because like my dad really liked the show, and like I watched some of it, but I didn't remember it. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna I don't know if I think Dan has not seen the entire show. I might let Dan borrow this so he can watch the entire show. It's so funny. It's so fun. And I even told I tried to get my parents into it too, because my parents like Seinfeld, but they really like watching like dramas.
Yeah.
Like really long, like continued story dramas.
They loved Lost.
Yeah, so that's a good example of something you really enjoyed. And I was like, you know, we're going to be finishing up Seinfeld if you want to watch it. And Mom's like, I like Seinfeld. She's like, but I don't know if I want to watch, you know, 180 episodes of Seinfeld. And I'm like, I did. It was great. So, anyway, share your Seinfeld thoughts below. If you're going to talk about any particularly, I don't know, there's not a huge number of spoilers you can really talk about. I mean, if it's spoilery, you can write spoiler and then put it down below, but I can't think really. Maybe final episode stuff. But otherwise, talk about, you know, the show, your enjoyment. Maybe you're someone who doesn't like it, you're not really into it. That's fine too. You can talk about that. Favorite episodes, favorite characters. Talk about this is your chance. This is your chance to talk about Seinfeld. We didn't do season by season, which in some way I regret. I understand why I decided to do it that way, but I kind of regret not talking more about Seinfeld for the last 5 months, because I would have loved to.
I do want to say this is a great picture of Jerry.
That's fantastic. But yeah, just make this episode the Seinfeld episode. Talk all about it in the comments, and I look forward to seeing what you guys think is your favorite episode or your favorite character and supporting character. There's so much to talk about. It's such a great show. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and as always, let's meet back tomorrow, shall we?